Good morning, everybody. We are here today at a reader's request, actually. We're going to be talking about the Axiom-man saga. These are some of the books in the series here. One, two, three, yeah, the first four. And what we're doing is a reader by the name of Joseph Ficor wrote in. Joseph, I hope I said your name correctly and pronounced it correctly. I got you up on the screen here. Well, I don't have you. I got your questions and things. Yeah, so you had suggested maybe to do this in a video, so I'm happy to do that for you. Please, yeah, just I hope I get it all done right here. So I have the questions up here, and you had asked if I could post some videos about the superheroes that have influenced my work when I was growing up, and then there's a few other questions which I'll get to in a second. So yeah, in terms of the superheroes that had influenced my work growing up, I mean, my first superhero memory, I was about 3, and I was watching Super Friends on TV, and I immediately, attached myself to Superman. At the time, I think if I got my dates right, I think it was around the time Superman 3 would have come out. So like the Christopher Reeve movies were still a big deal. I do remember seeing the fourth Superman movie in the theaters specifically, but the other ones, yeah, I was too young to go to the movies, so I would have seen them on TV. So Superman was a huge influence, and I think at the same time, I was also watching the 1960s Spider-Man cartoon. And the thing that got to me about the Christopher Reeve movies, as my starting point, I mean, of course, the Super Friends cartoons were, just good old fashioned superhero fun, them saving the day and stuff. But the Christopher Reeve movies, things, even at a young age, I recognized that there was a set kind of there was a magic to it. There's an overall feeling to the character, and an overall feeling to the movie, an overall sense of heart and goodness. And you couple that in with the action in those movies, and Superman coming at just the right moment to save the day, and the music building up as he goes from Clark Kent to Superman, and the big reveal with the S. To me, that really cemented in me my love for superheroes, this idea that this ordinary guy could become something extraordinary. And of course, Chris Reeve's version of Clark Kent was very he was very ordinary and a screw up and the whole bit, right? But then he became this wonderful thing, and so not only was it awesome to watch Superman save the day and do these fantastic things, and of course seeing him with his power set, right? Of course, like, who doesn't want to know how to fly? I remember running around the house in my superhero, or my Superman suit. My mom had made me when I was in kindergarten, and even when older, later on, when my friends were kind of growing out of the make-believe thing and playing hockey out on the bay that I lived on, they'd come to the door in their hockey stuff, hockey stick, and ask me to come outside, and I'd open the door, and I'd still be in my super suit, and I would choose to stay in my super suit and just play my own game of pretend while they were out there with each other, doing other stuff. So I appreciated that aspect of Superman, and then of course, as you learn about these other characters, especially when it comes to the live action, like, I mean, I think I was 8 when the 1989 Batman movie came out with Michael Keaton. I went to the theater for that one, and I mean, that was different, and especially because the Batman up until that point was the 1960s one. So it was very campy and silly, of course, with the Adam West version. But then this really dark and serious thing comes in, and I remember even just having some confusion during the movie. I mean, there's that scene where they're in the chemical plants, and Batman shoots his gauntlet up to get out, and he puts the cape out, and he goes up, and they have this sound effect like a shh, and I thought, holy smokes, like, is this Batman flying? Like, it was crazy, but it also, like, said that you could take ideas and turn them. And of course, I realized later he was just going up on the gauntlet there, or the grappling hook, but at the time, of course, I thought maybe he was flying. And this idea of bringing a new spin on things stuck with me. It was sort of an idea I didn't really spend a lot of time on at the time, but in hindsight, um, and like I had mentioned, the 60s Spider-Man cartoon, that one, that one for me, I think, was just more about me maybe it's the age thing, I don't know, but being a kid, it was it was more just watching the fun, watching Spider-Man come and just, save the day, basic stuff like that. But going forward, like I admit, Superman had a giant influence on me. He, just the way my grade school years went and all this stuff. I mean, I wasn't your most popular kid in school or anything like that, and I always clung to this idea that someone who could be ordinary or look ordinary or appear ordinary could be something special. And that's not to put myself on a pedestal, like thinking that I was so special or whatever, but it was sort of like a motivation to be more than I was, to be a better person, to be a nicer person, to be more good than bad, and that's I still try to stick to that. I mean, I don't always succeed, but this idea of just trying to be your best you. Um, what inspired you? You asked me for okay, so different elements came together in regards to creating Axiom-man. I created Axiom-man. I think I was 15 or 16, and it was during school. I think I was either in art class or it was during math or something like that. Um, and I had created a character called Axiom, which had a completely different costume. And I liked him. He was a cool character, and in fact, he's actually going to be sort of a parallel universe Axiom-man in a future story. But yeah, so this version came out, and then I created, in terms of the way he looks, the Axiom-man costume, but it was a different character at the time. He had a different character wore the suit, and then so those two were going. So imagine those, and then we got to go back a couple steps here. When I was younger, and I had a paper route, and I would do my route, and I would, as I was doing my route to help occupy my mind, I would, put the paper in the box, but I'd be doing this superhero fantasy in my head, and I would be walking around thinking about these things and mentally going on adventures while I would do my route, and I did that for years in this epic storyline, which has informed the current Axiom-man storyline in the books and stuff like that, especially the origin sequence in the first book, and so anyway, I had those three separate characters, right? The paper route character, the original Axiom character, and then the one with the costume, and that's kind of where I left it. But then when it came time to turning the Axiom-man saga into an actual story with a beginning, middle, and end, and the whole bit, I ended up taking those three things and throwing them all together and mixing it up, keeping aspects to it that I wanted and discarding aspects to it that I didn't want. And I did that, and that's kind of how it started. I wanted to create a hero that we could relate to. I wanted to create a hero that had power, but wasn't so powerful that he was too difficult to stop. The kind of hero that we could fly in and solve it with, snap his fingers kind of thing. I didn't want that. I wanted to create the tension. I wanted to create some conflict. That's not to say that super powerful heroes are a bad thing. It's just more to say that for what I needed the character for, and the plan I have for the character, and the plan of the journey he's going to be on, I couldn't have him super powered up right out of the gate there. And then in regards to like the secret identity thing, I do have a thing for that whole nerd, and then he's actually a superhero kind of concept. Maybe because I'm a geek myself. I don't know, but so with him it was kind of simple. I wanted to do that. I really like that angle of where he's this guy. Like, this is originally like Gabriel Garrison, the character. He's just this guy, and he's like a normal guy in terms of who he is, that kind of stuff. And then he gets his powers, and then he has, once he finally becomes Axiom-man, now he's got this choice, right? So he's this guy, and then he's got the powers. And then he decides to do something with the powers, and then he kind of becomes something else to cover up the fact that he's this guy with the powers who used to be this guy who was a regular guy. So he was like three people. And at his core, he's just your regular guy, your everyman. But at the same time, now he's got to deal with being two separate people, as well as be this regular guy. Because like when he's by himself, he's just him, right? Or if he's with his family, he's more or less just him. But then when he's Axiom-man, of course, the public sees the Axiom-man character. And then when he's Gabriel Garrison out at work and with acquaintances and friends and things, he's that particular guy too. So he's got to juggle basically three personalities. And to me, that would, put yourself in that shoes, and you stay there for a while, you kind of probably would get a little bit confused. And I thought that would be an interesting angle to look at as we journey with the character. And it started to show up in the books, and is going to be more of a thing as we go forward with the storyline. I have to keep my answers sort of brief due to video time, because I can't just go on and on. I just do the nature of the videos. And then you had also suggested to post some pictures of locations in Winnipeg that I've used in the book. I have right now a YouTube project in the computer with a pile of photos, and some of them are locations or areas used in the story. That will show up in a separate video. You'll see it soon enough. Just subscribe to the channel, and they'll all be there eventually. I'm just compiling it now and that sort of thing. So you'll be able to see your pictures at that point. You had written to me before, Joseph, about some things, but due to video length, I'm going to cut this one off and just do that one other a note here that you had sent me, and then maybe in a future video or possibly a future blog post, then I could look at those other items. But yeah, thank you for tuning in. I hope that answered your questions, Joseph, in the time allotted that I have. And yeah, thank you for watching. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. Take care.